Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Phil. I am the Down Under Maker. How is everybody this morning? It's been a big couple of weeks, a really big couple of weeks. I'm just having a quick look at who's in chat. It looks like we've probably got Jeff and Greg and Raj and Greenbeard, and hopefully a few more people will turn up as the streaming wakes up. There we go. Swapping the chat to make sure I can see everybody. So, where are we at? My index actually works now. We have a Brad. Hello, Brad. Brad's here because he knows what I've been printing. As I'm not going to go too deeply into the whole index stuff. On PC, no butt bands. No, I have no idea. No idea what he's going on about. I'm not going to dwell on the whole Bontech issues. I spent my money months ago. I realized right from the word go I could lose it. Am I happy with the situation? No. Do I think that there's an easy way they can solve this? Yes. Have I had a less than easy time converting my Prusa? Hell yes. I didn't really go too far into it in the streams with Steve because I didn't want to slow him down. There was a couple of steps that I went, okay, this is effed, and I'm going to move on and do what I can around the fact that this is effed, including the fact that the idler, top left, yeah, you can see this, the idler up here, it's held in place by a square nut. The square nut rotated rather than staying stuck in its pocket because it had been driven in with a power driver. And now I know that there's a so-called cold welding issue with them. Yeah, it wasn't cold welded. It was screwed on at a funky angle. Morning, Rod. So yeah, that was the thing, and there was a couple of other cross-threaded issues on there. So yeah, converting the printer wasn't easy either. Now, I want to make it very, very clear. Still like the Prusa as a printing unit. Still, I think it's absolutely awesome that I won the Prusa from Nomad, but I think that there's a non-zero chance that this was put together by a meth-fueled raccoon in Prague rather than a skilled assembly tech, because there was lots of stuff wrong with it, including the filament sense that I had trouble with for months. Yeah, speaking of filament sensors, I did get the replacement filament sensor. That is likely come down to the fact that it had got loose in the shipping box on its way from Sweden and got presumably everything in the box landing on it over and over and over again every time it got jostled, and hopefully the replacement sensor board will have resolved that, and we're going to be able to use the filament sensors. Let's leave all of that aside. We've got a stream coming up with Steve in a couple of weeks to actually post-mortem everything and go over the whole conversion process. So I'll leave that for that. What I will do is show you guys all of the ship prints, and then we'll work on it from there. So let me just turn on a few of these cameras. I turned some of them off to make it easier to stream with Steve, and honestly, I haven't had time to come through and sort some of this out. So let's move me to there. Okay. Let's try this one. That's probably going to be better. Side cam. And turn on that. Okay, some of the views are going to be a bit effed. I'm going to have to fix those as I go. That's a duplicate of me. Why am I here twice? No idea why I'm here twice. Let's delete that one. Yes. Turn that one on. And put that over there. Okay, right. This was my first attempt at my drop bears. Lair Shift City. Couldn't work out why. So I went back to single color printing just to see what was going on, to see if it was a nozzle offset issue that was causing it. And no, I did get much further through this one, but more by luck than anything. Let me explain why. Another prusa issue. There was no thread compound on the pulley on the one of the stepper motors. One grub screw was completely missing. The other one was loose. And obviously the changes that I made was enough to get it all even further out of whack. And it was fine up until the conversion. And after that, it was doing strange things. As one of my color tests, I also printed the Auto Test Butterfly from Prusa's website. That might be zoomed in. Let me zoom out. There we go. That's better. You can see here that there was a layer shift. But what happens is every time the Prusa tries to redock, the index system tries to redock, if it misses the dock, it will then do a homing and then sort itself out. In stereo double vision, I wish. Raj has an L now. Morning, Rod. Seen you've arrived. Greg has been also watching my prints on Discord. Okay. That brings me to a whole bunch of these other butterflies that I was playing with. Something to know. Where I live in Perth, well, just outside Perth in Australia, it's not very healthy for printers. GTR Dad, hello! And Tulsa, yeah, sorry, the Tulsa's here. It's not very conducive to having your filament last very long if you leave it exposed to the environment. What I had trouble with, because the way the printer is set up from standard, is filament would shatter on the spool while it was printing. So this is what it should look like. And here is that way. What happens? That particular kind of blue, because there's two different blues, a lighter blue and a slightly darker blue. The lighter blue, it shattered on the spool, and it just, in the Bowden tube, it tried to print the last little bit that it could grip, and then didn't. So that's going to bring us on to our Sunlu stuff in a minute. I'm just going over this because I know everybody wants to know. I did get a pretty good print here, but if you have a look closely, the gold at the bottom, that only printed the first layer, then it shattered inside the Bowden, and yeah. But that brings us on to the next big issue. I was getting stringing, really, really, really bad stringing. I turned the print temperature down 15 degrees. Stringing went away, and I can prove that to you guys in a minute, because I've just literally 10 minutes before the stream started, finished printing something that Brad sent me a little while ago. But here is my giant drop bear. He's got his fangs, his slightly jaundiced eyes, blood on his claws, big black bum. This was a stringy mess when I printed it. It cleaned up really easily. Now, if you have a look, it looks like it's a dog's breakfast in terms of layer alignment. If you turn it that way, it's fine. The lighting in here is really unforgiving, and it does accentuate any minor layer alignment and make it look awful. There was also fuzzy skin enabled on this print, which I didn't realize until afterwards. It was only a very minor one. But like I say, if you turn it that way, it makes a lot of the, what looks really, really poor layer alignment go away. So in natural light, it's actually a lot less icky than it looks. Now, this is the most recent print apart from what's actually on the printer now. This came off the printer as is, no cleanup. It's a two-part print, the butterfly wings and the body. And it's working. I did it on a texture plate because it looks nice. And yeah, I'm getting it. So that made me, oh, actually, there was another print in the meantime. The chameleon. The eyes failed because the orange broke again. And you can see it's a bit fluffy. This was before I turned the temperature down. So you can see there's bits of stringing. This was a stringy mess. I'm sure Greg will attest in chat. Who have we got here? Doesn't look like we've got any more people come in, but hi if you have. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Again, orange broke. You can see that the eyes aren't filled in because that should have all been orange. This black here, where it's not quite right, would have been supported by the orange, so I'm not stressing that. It was just a messy print. But as soon as I turned it down 15 degrees, this is still slightly warm. Check them out. There is a whole one string. Can you guys see it? You might not even be able to see it. There was a whole one string. Now, I've printed this guy before in single color, and it's quite common to have to just slightly separate the... There he is. And just for Brad, he's got red eyes. He's my platypus Pierre. And there's one for each of the kids. So I'm quite happy with that. I didn't paint it quite properly. There's a small black bit that I should have painted. But he looks cool. So thanks for that, Brad. Thanks for sending the model through. The chameleon had looked into the void. Hi, Hichiro. Now, along the way, I have picked up many waifs and strays from the Bontech Discord, so we might have a few new people in chat. But yeah, nozzle issues aside, I'm quite happy with the results I'm getting now that I've tamed the beast. I do still need to start printing with ABS on it and work that stuff out. And I've been seeing that Steve's been getting some great results with PETG supports. And I'm going to leave that in there for now, so that I can bring the kids in and show them. One last thing. 0.4 nozzles and wood-filled filament, it's a bad idea. I did get through 100 layers. It was printing it pretty nasty, and then it clogged all together. I should have got a 0.6 in straight through nozzle, but I was kind of cash strapped at the time, so we'll wait for that. See how this whole nozzle thing falls out. But yeah, it actually printed really nicely at the base. This feels solid. So yeah, that was going to be the chameleon. I wanted to have him on a nice wooden perch, but no, it didn't quite work out as expected and hoped. So let's tidy up all this up a little bit. Let's stick them all over here so they're sort of in frame. Now I ended up printing about 7 or 8 of these butterfly wings because they are really good fast tests for the color swapping. Many. That one. Many butterflies. Drop you the drop there, and get another butterfly. Tip for anybody who's printing the butterfly, I found that it's exceedingly tight on the fit between the wings and the body. So print the body 1% bigger, so scale it up to 101%, and then the wings will slide on much more comfortably. Because I was breaking the antennas off the butterfly's head, which not great. So let's have a look at some stuff. Now, before we start, let's talk about why this is necessary for me here. My filament shatters like this, right on the spool, if I leave it out for more than a few days at a time. I live between the desert and the ocean, and the humidity swings and the temperature swings and all that stuff, it just kills filament really, really fast. So normally I print straight out of dry boxes, but with the INDX as is, it's not really catering for that. So you could, if you were in a country much closer to Prague, order the boxes that Prusa have, or you could use something similar. I don't have those luxuries. To get those sort of things to here, it costs more in shipping than it does for the actual items. It's just not worth it. So I spotted the new version of the Sunlu on a launch sale and was able to pick it up exceedingly cheaply, like under $100 US, after a few discounts and stuff that they had for the first few hours of the launch, and I grabbed it. But before I grabbed it, I had the original version. It's not perfect. Let's be clear on that. Let's go and turn that down a bit. It's not perfect. It's anything but perfect. There's a lot of annoying things with it. Let me demonstrate one. It's designed so it has two different methods for getting your filament out, either through the top or through the ends. The ends work okay. If you put them in the top though, let me just do this. They come with these little rubber stoppers to keep the air trapped, which is nice. If you put it in the top, every time you open the lid, you end up crimping the hose, the PTFE, and it damages it. You end up with a kink, and then you end up with filament getting too much load on it and print stalling and all the rest of that nastiness. Other thing is, as you can see through the side, the filaments are this way, which means you can't see what the rear spool's doing, which is annoying. Now, what could potentially have solved that is the top exit is having a strip across the middle. Yes, it would have meant that it's slightly harder to get in and out of the unit, but a strip across the middle, and then have rather than you orientating it so you have the spools exit up like this, you have it exit up through the middle, and then put the lid down. That would have got rid of some of that issue, I think. It certainly would have mitigated it, because if you had a plate here, you would no longer be flexing everything. I fed that back to Sunlu back in the day. Never heard anything back from them. They probably didn't care. I was just some random dude off the interwebs. Let's put that up here for a minute. That's the replacement filament sensor board. Oh, while we're here, I'm going to show you my patent pending lid keeper upperer. Is it that one? No, it must be this one. Here we go. I've been having trouble with the lid retainers keeping the lid actually upright if I want to print open with PLA. A 600mm ruler stuffed underneath the PTFE over here and over the top of the ones here. It keeps the lid open and it doesn't go crashing down. There was a small mark on the drop bear's nose where mid-print the lid went plunk and it jostled the print head. So yeah, that's my patent pending method of keeping the lid up. Okay, so the major gripes were the way they did the exits on the filament on the top and the fact that you can't see all full spools. It makes no sense to me why you wouldn't have the spools this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Their design choice, they obviously felt that it was the way that they wanted to go. And it was a bit of a fail. I'm pretty sure that that continues on to the next one based on the pictures I've seen. In terms of performance though, I've not had any issues with it. I know that some people said that they had issues with it maintaining temperature. Use a couple of BTT ducks. I have a million of them. You might have seen them off the edge. Look, they're all stacked up. They're all falling off. The kids love stealing them. I've got a million BTT ducks from all the testing I do. But yeah, it works. And what I normally do is I run it in maintenance mode. So it does a full drying cycle. And then after that, it stays in this maintenance mode where it has a target humidity and temperature and it tries to stick to it. Now, for those of you who are new here, it is 3:20 in the morning my time. So that's why I am currently drinking coffee, because it's what's waking me up. So yeah, it works. Is it great? No. Does it work? Yes. And that's why I'm going with this. Plus the fact I need 8 spools capacity to match with the INDX. So yeah. Now I have covered over my address details, so I should be good. I opened it just enough to make sure there was no invoices are in the top with my details on it as well. But that's as far as I've got. Foamy foam. Now this is actually going to be a Father's Day gift from my kids in a couple of weeks, beginning of September. So after we've done this, I'm going to keep all the wrapping. I'm going to set it aside, and just before I need them to give it to me for them thinking they're awesome, I'll wrap it up again. So just to prove it, factory tape, I haven't opened it yet. Close enough. That's not my scalpel, that's my scalpel. Okay, so first thing I've noticed is they've done away with the little metal clips you can lose super easy on the PTFE. Now, I'm not going to be as free flowing with the wrapping as I normally would be. Normally I just dish it over the bench and it goes. Good morning, Penguin. James is wondering why you're awake and says you should go back to bed. But how could I talk to all you brilliant people? Okay, we have millions of bits of hardware in here. And an actually a legal Australian plug. Let me show you through a legal Australian plug while we're here. That's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Okay. Australian plugs, to be legal, need to have this black base to the pins. Or at least a protective layer. It stops little kids putting their finger behind the back of the plug and the pin still being in contact with the terminals in the wall. So there are occasionally situations where overseas suppliers use the Chinese compliant or the South American compliant plugs that have the metal pin all the way to the base, and they're not legal here. So we've got an actually legit plug, which is awesome. We have a heathen in the house. Does he have all his digits today? We have to ask and wonder. What else is in the box? That wasn't in the box. That looks like a whole bunch of bearings and rods for the filament to sit on. A Sunlu. This is all the shit we sell kind of booklet, and some compliance stuff on the back. We're really scared of electricity, apparently. You guys go one step further, Greenbeard, and I think it's an absolutely awesome idea. For those of you who don't know how UK sockets work, if you have a 3-pin plug, which I'm pretty sure you have to be compliant unless it's meets certain requirements for like shavers and things, they have an earth pin on all of their plugs. That earth pin is actually about 7 or 8 millimeters longer, so it actually engages with the socket sooner. That then opens special doors which protects the active and neutral pins on the wall socket. So until the earth pin actuates the doors, you can't even put your fingers in the socket. Australia covers that by having quite thin terminals, but the UK terminals can handle something crazy like 150 amps because stuff. And as a result, yeah, those big fat sockets mean that little kids could put their fingers in the socket. They obviously can't with that new mechanism that was introduced about 30 years ago from memory. It was not long after I emigrated from the UK. Now, Sunlu have been a bit tight with their PTFE. There is only 2 PTFEs in the box. Not the end of the world for me, I've got tons of the stuff. But yeah, so let's see if we can find a better spot for the camera so you guys can see inside the unit. Sorry guys, just setting this up. Nope. There. There we go, that's better. Much more better. So looking down into the chamber, there we go. And it looks like the way they do it is you pop the bearings onto those steel rods and then pop those bearings into the little holders back down there in the bottom. Now let's have a look at this lid. These appear to be a rubberized, single unit. So the original unit has the more ECAS style way of doing things. This is a single piece TPU or rubber. You can probably print these easy enough if you damage them. And it just press fits in. I think that's actually quite a nice improvement. So that's good. Let's go to hands. TPU or rubber. That was actually adjusted for working Steves, so move that around. Let's have a look at this instruction guide. Canadian compliance, it's got the French. Package contents. Yeah. PTFE 8 centimeters times 2. PTFE 1 meter times 2. I don't have the short PTFEs. Okay, the short PTFEs, no, they're not in there. Not in there. Don't have them. Okay, so Sunlu, do better. You're missing stuff. Honestly, nothing really to note about this other than this does have higher temperatures than the original. The original, I think, caps out at 60°. This one caps out at 85°C instead. So you do need to be a little bit careful with PLA. If you were to put PLA in at that temperature, chances are you would completely ruin it. How to plug it in. Sorry, there's not a lot I can do about the glare. It's going to be a bit glary. It's just the nature of the shiny paper. Guess it's different in the States. I remember when I was young, always putting stuff in the sockets and getting zapped. You survived. I've heard of Sunlu, but I've heard of Moonlu. No, I haven't. Also, morning, Betty. Betty has been the luckiest person in the world for the last few days. He's won filament and all sorts of stuff I've been seeing on various streams. And the biggest difference, other than the higher temperatures, is that this unit can actually has dual chambers. The original version that I was just showing you guys is one big void inside. This one has two separate chambers. Let's go to the other one. So yeah, two individual chambers, two individual heaters, two individual fans. So you can run 2 or 4, and you can run 2 at one temperature and 2 at a different temperature. It's a lot more flexible in that regard. So let's start putting this thing together. Let's go to the book, go back to that one. That's all there, that's all there. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we do have all the steel bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we do have all of the bearings and stuff at least. It's not as snug of a fit as I was worried about, so that's not a big deal. Now, that's actually a good thing. It does show on the screen. Shiny bit is ever so slightly narrower than the rough textured part. I'm not sure if that's a sleeving or if it's just a... Oh no, it's machined. So the bar is actually machined to be bigger than the diameter of the bearing. And then the very tip is just machined so it will fit. And it's just not quite an interference fit, but it's a much more snug fit, and you couldn't slide the bearings on too far. Let's swap to side cam. There we go. I'm not going to show you this every time, but pop, pop, and it does fit. So that's a win. One, two. I'm just going to put these together here, and then we'll... Hello, Collie. One, two. Is there some sort of problem with the audio? Put these together here, and then we'll... Hello, Collie. No, I'm not listening to my own stream. Let me just turn this off and back on again, see if that helps. No, none of the cameras are connected to the audio. The external cameras are connected to the audio. Is that any better? Tulsa doesn't hear any problems. I don't know. Maybe YouTube's doing silly things. Audio is fine. Nick, hello! Okay, well, the vast majority of people saying it's okay, so we'll go with it. There is a tiny little bit of an echo in this room, but I'd like to be able to show you guys what's going on, but to tilt this unit over and over and over and over is too hard. Pop, pop. Pop, pop. Now, when it snaps in, that actually feels really nice and secure. I don't think you would miss whether it's snap fitted or not. It's really obvious when it goes click. So let's go to that one again. Sorry guys, I should have made sure it was on that one before I did the rods. You would have seen more. It could be, guys, that there was something weird going on with your YouTube relay. YouTube has trunk connections around the world where it passes things, and sometimes strange things happen with one that don't happen with another. So let's see if I can prop this up just a little bit. There we go. Pop, pop. It does look like on the audio meter that you guys can hear these pops as it snaps in, so that's good. So that's all in. Now, something else that the other unit had, and this one does too, is there is a spot for you to be able to put silica gel in the bottom to help maintain things once it's actually dried. So that flap is going to end up breaking off at some stage, I'm sure. It sticks up quite a long way, but we'll see. It does feel quite nice. So that's the bearings put into place, and we should probably find a power cable. There's the original power cord. Tell you what, this is a far less stressful process than desperately trying to keep up with Steve. There was one or two things I'd cheated on just a little bit to try and keep myself prepped and ahead. Let's tilt this up a little just in case, so you can see the screen a little better. There we go. Oh, it is lit up. There we go. So on the original version, it's a white background with black display. On this version, it appears to be a black background. Ooh, is everybody ready for the peel? Are you ready? I know there's some of you out there who are weirdos who get off on this. There you go. I'm sure somebody's just finished as a result of that. Brittle filament, yeah, that's my major issue. Moisture Maker 3D, I have no idea who you are. but I appreciate the whole moist reference. Ooh, pretty. It's got green too. So it's gone automatically into PLA mode and it has started. Okay, that button appears to swap between which, whether you're operating left or right side. Doesn't appear to have a third setting where it does both at the same time, but that's fine. So let's set that to 55C. I'm not sure how much you guys can see of the numbers. Let me see if I can zoom in. There we go. That's a little better. So let's swap to that side. 50 flashing, 1C increments. You can go up or down. Mode 1 is the I'm going to dry it for a certain number of hours. That's a preset for what temperature you want, so you can go PLA, PETG, whatever. These menus are pretty much identical in terms of what they're doing, except now there's a nylon setting. I can't read what that says from here. A PA6. So presumably it's saying that. Is this locked up? Something's going on. So yes, that's at 85C is a preset for polycarbonate. C or Fahrenheit settings. And mode 2. Oh, there's a mode 3. Need to find out what mode 3 is. Mode 3 might be annealing. And this is currently targeting 25% relative humidity. So there's lots of cool stuff. I need to work out for myself and read through the menu myself when I get a few moments, just to get comfortable with how to operate it. I think you need to wait for it to time out. Yeah, you need to wait for it to time out to be able to turn it off, which was a minor annoyance for me previously, but... And it won't even let you do it that way. You must have to power it off here. Either or I'm missing how to do it. Let's have a look. Operating instructions are pages 5 through 10. It says, plug it in, put filament in, connect your PTFEs. Aha, display. Set the temperature, set what the relative humidity actually is, what the actual... Must be what the actual temperature is. So desired setting versus actual setting for the temperature. How long is on the timer? Can I go closer on this? I already was closed in. Okay. If I move it over there, it's a bit less shiny for the most part. There we go. Swap between left and right. We got that sorted out. Here we go. Mode 1, normal drying mode. When the countdown timer reaches 0, the corresponding chamber will stop. Yep, that's the same as well. Mode 2 is annealing mode. Only some engineering consumables are displayed. Then the countdown timer reaches 0, the corresponding chamber stops heating. The time indicator shows to off. Mode 3, humidity control mode, which is what... Okay, that's going to be annoying. You would have thought that for continuity between the old model and the new model, they'd have mode 2 as the humidity ongoing maintenance mode, and then mode 3 as annealing. They've chosen not to do that. Weird. And then how to go between the menus. So I'm going to have to play with it. I'm going to have to plumb through the PTFEs, but I think we're on instructions who reads them. Don't tell 3D&T, but I am Playhouse Printing's brother. He taught me into changing the name. It used to be Moist Maker Baking back when I... Everybody knows that Terry likes it to chat to me, but hates it when I use the word, and I can't help myself when I use the word a lot. Even to the point where I set my name on my prize draw wins to something referencing Moist. For those of you who don't subscribe to 3D&T Printing, go do so after the stream. Terry and Dave do it as a couple duo, and it's fun. It's more chatting than printing most of the time, and Dave never ever manages to finish building printers, or if he does, it takes him 2, maybe 3 years. But they're a great laugh. They do UV printing, they do t-shirt printing, they do occasionally 3D printing if Dave does manage to finish building a printer. And yeah, go subscribe to them. They're awesome people. At one stage, I was thinking that Moist Maker was a renaming of Nick, but obviously not. We've proven that because they're both in the chat at the same time. So that's the S4 Pro. I'll have a play, and I'll give you some feedback a little later once I've had a chance to play with it. Now, I don't normally do reviews on my channel, mostly because a lot of the gear I get is from companies I'm testing for. This is bought with my own money, so I can say whatever the hell I want, whenever the hell I want, about whatever the hell I want, and it's not going to cause any dramas. Personally, I feel like doing a review on something I tested is a bit of a self-audit issue. I mean, if I've got bad things to say about something, it should never have got past me in testing. So, or if it did, the company is completely disregarding their testing, and I don't want to be working for them. So, I'm missing the side cam on this view. That's why. There's no side cam on that view for some reason. No, let's go back to something a little bit more user-friendly. Okay, there's my hands. What are we going to do next? Let's unwrap some stuff. Some more stuff came from AliExpress. Now, I've been slowly investing in upgrading my soldering equipment, and one of the tips I thought I was getting when I ordered my original unit. Oh, Ballistic, hello! Just at the right time. I'm just talking about new soldering tips. I bought myself what's called an IS tip for my soldering iron. As you can see, it's bent. What this allows you to do is coming from the side on a job. Oh, somewhere here. Coming from the side on a job, and you can actually see what you're soldering, and you've got a bit more contact area compared to a pointy tip. So you can actually drag it across the base of pins and make sure that they're thoroughly flowed with solder much more easily, because you can see what's going on. And imagine if this was a normal straight tip where the point is, you've only got that very tiny contact area to get the heat across compared to that. And it does give you the opportunity to be very fine and pointy at the same time, but you can roll it over and go like that without interfering with stuff that's going on underneath. So that is probably going to be my weapon of choice for the most part when I'm doing my soldering. Speaking of which, as time goes by, I might do some more soldering on the channel. It depends how much interest you guys show and all that sort of stuff. I also don't want to steal Ballistic's thunder. Speaking of which, Ballistic Tech is an amazing guy. Go subscribe to him if you haven't already. He's focused on printing and electronics. He's just designed a steering wheel controller for 3D printing your own steering wheel for sim racing on your computer, and then you can use his electronics to put into your own plastic shell. Also subscribe to Penguin Makers. Top guy. Him and James are a comedy double act. James is the comedian and Penguin is the fall guy. It certainly seems that way. James's humor is dark and dry and quite awesome. Now, back to what I'm doing here. I am a very strong advocate for powering your Pis properly. Raspberry Pis, as in the genuine ones, are designed to receive 5.1 volts at either 2.5 or 5 amps maximum draw, depending on the model. Raspberry Pi 4s are, I think, up to 4 amps maybe. Well, Phil, you are going to use flux if you're not. Are you going to use flux if you're not worth watching? Okay, yeah, I use flux, lots and lots and lots of flux. I have those exact USB-C plugs. I'm using them for the sim racing wheel. Nice. These are the upgraded versions of the ones I've been using because these have 4 pins on them. I'll probably only use 2 for the most part because I don't need the data on them most of the time. But having the ability to have data is going to give me the flexibility to do other things if I need to with various projects. Speaking of projects in Dad's Backyard, also subscribe to him after the stream. But what this means is I can get one of my 5-volt power supplies. I can use the little dial-in adjuster to tweak the voltage up from 5 volts to 5.1 volts. Using a handy dandy Type C voltmeter. Actually, let's power this up so you guys can see it. Some of you have seen it before. Okay, there will be an echo for a moment. What's going on here? There we go. Something leaned on the remote control. So you can tweak the voltage up to 5.1 volts, and that means that it can quite happily run the Raspberry Pis. Okay, Phil, you can take off your seatbelt. I've made it all the way to work. Thanks, Jeff. Your board's been quite sticky. I found that if you use some of the more expensive fluxes you see all the big laptop fixer kind of streamers use, that the cleanup's much easier. I mean, what I typically do is, sorry, I'm answering Ballistic Tech's question in chat. I typically clean it up as soon as I've done a particular part of the board. So squirt it with IPA, wipe it off. I've got some of these melamine sponge foam cleanup sponges that I use. I just realized why I'm having some difficulties with you guys seeing. There we go. So you can actually scrub into the board surface with these. I tidied up for Steve's stream and I've put my electronics gear away. Let me see if I can find the project I've been working on. Not there, not there. No, I can't see it. Ah, there it is. So that board's come up pretty clean with just that process I was talking about with the IPA. So I'll do a section, like I'll do the diodes, and then I'll clean it. I did the transistors and then cleaned it. And flux has an expiry date for people who don't know that. The expiry date is for the fact that it's often used by military and similar. And you can pick it up off AliExpress expired. It doesn't matter for our use, and it doesn't make any difference. It's just that for military and aerospace, they have criteria that they have. So I pick it up off AliExpress to use as expired surplus, and it works. So I'm having no issues with it. This is the MTech 559, which I saw Dell Parts people using, so that's what I'm using. It works for him, works for me. I'm seeing there's some weird thing going on with sign into chat on this, so give me a sec while I... Whoop. There we go. Raj finished work 4 hours ago, so I'm just quickly skimming through. Phil, are you going to stream the BT board you fried? Possibly. Now, let's go over the course of what happened so that people playing catch up, because I know I've got to have a whole bunch of new viewers. About 5 or 6 weeks ago, we were fixing and rebuilding my Voron 2.4, and I moved the Octopus board down the DIN rail, not realizing that when I did, I trapped an LED cable behind the board. And on the back of the board where the stepper drivers are connected, there's little stubby ends on the pins. One of those stubby ends was 24 volts and stabbed right through the insulation of the 5-volt line for the LEDs. And when we turned the power on, it went poof. There was much smoke. It happened on stream, so it was good content. It was just very expensive to make. I ordered a replacement Octopus. Said replacement Octopus was a returned stock that I eventually managed to get the vendor to admit. And somebody else had let the smoke out of that one before returning it. They refunded me, and my plan is, once I've gone through and made sure that there's no overlapping issues... Do you have a plunger for the syringes? Yes, I do. The one that comes with them, and certainly from that vendor, doesn't fit quite right. So my plan is, if I can make sure that the two boards don't have conflicting faults, what I'm going to do is use one as the donor for the other and get two working boards, one working board from two broken. Nick only buys used flux. So yeah, so that's where I'm going with all this. Some more electronical kind of work. Let's put these into this bag and put them into my drawer of many stashed things. That can go back on the shelf in a minute along with that. In fact, I'm going to do it now, guys, because otherwise I'm not going to know where everything is. So maybe in a couple of weeks, just to try the content out, we'll do some soldering. I've got my magnifying scope that I can stream into OBS, so you guys can see exactly what's going on. I've done a little bit of it on Discord for people to see, just because I'm hanging out and it gives me somebody to chat to while I'm doing the jobs. And I've got another one of those boards that because I bought two for practicing my micro soldering. I've got another one of those boards and we can go through things. I've also got my voltmeter, which streams into OBS as well. So we can do testing and things like that as we go. And yeah, so where are we at? We are at an hour into stream. Maybe what we could do is we could fit the new replacement filament sensor and wire that all in. Now, I am not going to move the printer. You guys will have to suffer through looking at my butt a little bit That one, I'm just getting to the point where I can zoom in so you can see a bit better. And there we go. Not very straight. There we go. Close enough. This ain't gonna be easy. So what I have to do is unload every single spool of filament, because I need to get in and plug cables in and take boards out and stuff. Or do I just try and take the screw out and go? Let's just try and take the screw out. Now, in the lead up to streaming with Steve, I did a bunch of upgrades around here. One of them was by myself, the Hoto power screwdriver, because I have terrible strain injury in my right arm. Yes, make as many comments as you want. I know you're going to. And look, it's got an LED pixel display. This is the Hoto Pixel Drive, for those of you who were wondering. No, not sponsored, just picked it up at a local computer store. And I installed a big overhead light because the lighting in here was always a bit gloomy. Now, it's not great, but it does mean that the lighting in here is better than it used to be. Now, whenever you're working on the Prusa, it's better to just undo. I'll take all the nozzles off their mounts, otherwise they end up falling down anyway, and rather than run the risk of damaging them, taking them off the mounts and placing them is just a better way to do it. All right, undo. Now, hopefully everybody watched the stream so you know exactly what I'm looking at here. Now, without the time pressure trying to keep up with Steve, I can do this at my own pace. Actually, I don't need to take this one all the way apart. It's the other side I need to take all the way apart. This one I just need to be able to plug the cable into. Now, unfortunately, when Prusa did this, they designed it in such a way as you can't easily get these plugs out or even in without dismantling things. The reason being, there's a little tongue on the plug, and that tongue is only available from the top. So now that's plugged in, there's no way I will be able to get it out again. The only way you can do it is to modify parts, and I had a look at doing so and just putting it like just a simple hole through the parts to be able to push an Allen key into to depress the tongue, and it would interfere with other things that are going on inside the mechanisms. That's not going to fly. Let me try and put this in by hand, and then there we go. I know you guys probably can't see an awful lot, and I'm sorry about that, but it's better than me spending 10 minutes while you guys watch me remove all the filaments. And I feel like half of the stream with Steve, you guys ended up already staring at my ass as I was troubleshooting while he was doing prize draws. So we'll just stay with situation normal. So that's the first side plugged back in. Now, what I found was going on was, if I didn't have the filament sensors plugged in, I didn't get any nag screens or any errors on the system. During testing, I found that the board which controls sensors for the channels 1 to 4 had failed, just wouldn't work. You probably saw that part on the stream. If board 1 to 4 was plugged in, that also meant that the board for 5 to 8 wasn't working. Hi. 5 to 8 wasn't working. Tuck the tag in on your t-shirt. Okay, Jeff. Thanks, Dad. So the if you had the board 1 to 4 in, because it had failed, it would also cause the boards on 5 to 8 to fail because of the way Modbus works. And the moment I unplugged board 1 to 4 and plugged the board 5 to 8 in on the bus, everything worked for the 5 to 8 channels. I managed to get those to calibrate. Then, because it had a calibration, it would no longer prevent me from moving on to the next steps. And yeah, it was annoying. I'll go for it in more depth when I talk to Steve once I've had a chance to more succinctly work out how to describe what was going on. So Bondtech very kindly, once I showed them all the troubleshooting I'd done to demonstrate I wasn't just an idiot. Well, I am just an idiot, as everybody will attest, but how does this box open? Oh. So once I've done all the troubleshooting, like I said, Bondtech sent me a replacement. Ah, it's a gluey together box. That's almost like a peel. I figured you guys would want to see. Oh, documents in here with my details on, so get rid of those. Replacement board. So let's give you a brief rundown of this board. Magnetic sensor, magnetic sensor, magnetic sensor, magnetic sensor. These are sensor ports. They are just parallel. So pin 1 there is directly connected to pin 1 there, pin 2 in the middle, pin 2, pin 3, pin 3. And onto those pins is injected the signals from each of those magnetic sensors via that chip. It looks like that chip is what got damaged in transit, because all of the components test normally when I put them on the meter. It's just there's no output. Nothing changes. You can see that the power from this pin and the ground from this pin connect to each of the sensors on the broken board, but you can't, and you can test the output connectivity back to the chip, but whatever the chip does and then puts onto the bus, it just doesn't do anything. I might have a replacement Modbus chip in my stash somewhere. So we could always, with the broken board, play with that later. Put the scalpel out of the way before I end up stabbing myself, and let's go back to that one. I think I know what's been causing the audio. I have a software package that was recommended by MakerViking called Space Desk. Space Desk allows you to connect your Android tablets, or even your iOS tablets now, to Windows as an extra external monitor. And what that means is you can do things like painting your models using a stylus rather than using your mouse when you're doing painting your STLs. But if the model isn't specifically designed for color printing and you have to paint colors onto it using the software, it's not easy. Not easy to get it nice anyway. So those two screws are out there, what retain the board, but I need to take those two screws out, which I can't get to with the power driver. Sorry, talking you through it so you know what I'm doing. Ow. I went to see a physiotherapist about the strain injury in my arm after my wife watched the stream and saw how much pain I was in doing all the screwdrivering. And then the physio did massage on it, which has loosened it up, but it hurts like a mofo and bruised everything inside, which is what physios do. But also she then put some tape on to help support it, which then, as I removed yesterday, took all the skin off. Okay, so I now have to be super duper careful that I don't drop all these magnets. I also have to be super duper careful I don't mix up these boards. So, old board up there. Very gently place that there. New board in. I know you can't see very much, guys, and I'm sorry. First screw is in. That was always going to happen. It's not one of my streams if I'm not dropping screws on the floor. Half a turn in by hand and then drive it home. So that's in. Now I need the cables. Very gently put that there. Where did I put the printed part? There. Now it doesn't matter which way around you plug these cables in because it's a parallel connected bus. And I can explain that more thoroughly in a moment if you need me to. So put your answers in chat if you want me to explain what a parallel connected bus is more thoroughly. You probably don't. It's nerdy stuff. Right. The major danger part is out of the way. Wonder if you can hear that squeak on the microphone or not. Not all the way tight, it's just a close. And once we've got this installed, we will have a look at the Panda Sense Pro. Because trying to do this calibration with you guys watching is going to be like watching paint dry. And you've seen it, you've seen Steve do it, you've seen Grant do it, you saw me try to do it. So I'll do that off stream now. just before I started printing the platypus, I've got all these all tangled up, so bear with me a sec. There we go, that's the right one. Just before I started printing the platypuses last night, I realized that the orange had shattered again, so I removed it from the Bowden and never plugged the Bowden back into the tool head. Okay, let's all put back together. Let's put that in here. And helps if I turn it off. Side cam. I like my Hoto, it's good, but they did swing and miss on a few things. Type-C charge port is in the base of the screwdriver. Can't really see black on black, but there you go. For some reason, this camera is a lot dimmer. That's better. All of a sudden it improved. Yeah, so the Type-C port is on the base, but there's no hole in the base of here to plug it in through, or some sort of pass-through jack to plug it into. It was a swing and a miss in that regard, because now you have to take it out of its nice pretty little box to charge it. Put that over there out the way before I drop it on the floor. That's rubbish. That can go there. So, Panda Sense Pro. I know this stream is a bit all mixed up at the moment, but this is the Panda Sense Pro. It is an environmental sensor suite that I was sent to test by Big Tree Tech. Let's go to here for 1 minute and go here. Oh yeah. So, I don't pretend to be an expert on this stuff. I'm the guy who can test things and break things. But basically, this is designed to measure what's going on with the air inside your room and tell you whether it's toxic or not. Little bar at the top gives you a color scale from we're doing okay through to we're all going to die. So if anything's the colors over here, we're all going to die. It's measuring approximately every 8 seconds, I recall from what we were told, and it just works. You print the shell, you put the unit into the shell, and you go from there. Now, I don't have a back cover on my shell at the moment because I need to print a new button. There's a button feature that goes in here, and I never got around to printing the replacement when we realized the geometry of the original wasn't quite right. So that's all the sensors on the back there. That's a dog hair. And basically you get the screen unit and the sensor display. You plug it all together and wrap it around the inside of the shell and then power it up. There's not an awful lot to that. Safe would depend if my dog is in the room or not. Dog farts are amazingly bad. Just scanning through chat. FarmTech, hello. No. Compared to Steve, I am completely amateur hour when it comes to keeping up with chat, and I do apologize. So let's have a quick look. You remember Thomas's video on volatile organic compounds? Yes, VOCs. I know enough about the basics to be dangerous, but I don't pretend to be an expert. What I can tell you is 44.1% humidity, relative humidity in this room, and it's a dry day. So it's already up there in terms of relative humidity. The carbon dioxide, you'll actually see this moving around because it's sensing every time I breathe. So it'll go down for one reading, then as it processes, it'll probably go up again. Either it'll go backwards. It's going backwards just because I've merely blowing air past it turns over the air inside. But yeah, one of the most critical things that we need to worry about, and there we go, it's going back up again. We need to worry about is the formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is bad, does nasty things, it's highly carcinogenic. There we go, volatile organic compounds is basically anything that's got carbon in it is an organic compound. And if your volatile compounds are too high, it means that you've got stuff in the air which can react with stuff in your body and potentially cause nasty things. Greg's been interviewing unqualified candidates. Yay, been there, done that. And the PMs values are basically the particle sizes. So you've got particle size up to 10 microns and up to 2.5 microns or something like that. I forget the exact details. Like I said, I don't pretend to be an expert in that. I'm the guy. Oh, there we go. There's my breath. It's finally caught up. 2001 parts per million of carbon dioxide. So yeah, the temperature suite is designed, the whole suite is designed to basically, you sit it somewhere near your printers and it tells you whether you're breathing good air, bad air, or indifferent air. Carbon dioxide, nothing to worry about. That's just simply what you're breathing out for the most part. It's the other stuff that you really need to keep an eye on. If your carbon dioxides do stay too high for too long, you will end up probably with a headache and being very tired. But in terms of its impact on you, it's not that big of a deal. But it's nice to know. So let's see if we can throw up a browser on that other screen, and then we'll have a look at the software interface for it. That one will do. And I need the IP address. Where's my phone gone? I should have been a little bit more prepared for this, but Micromaker has had a bad night, and I slept as long as I possibly could before the stream. Has it got the IP address? Oh, I could probably do the name on it. Panda Sense Pro.local. And I typed that into the middle of the URL that was already on there rather than clearing it. Let's see if that actually works. There we go, we're in. Okay, so let's go to that one. Hopefully you guys can see that. Yes, you can. Now, I shouldn't be able to dox myself too badly, I don't think. Okay. Let's have a look at this. Panda Sense Pro. Basically, it's the same displays we've already been looking at on the screen for the most part, but let's slide down here and move this across a bit. There we go. The biggest part of it is that from here you can control the Wi-Fi settings. So you can actually come in here and set things up for connecting it to your Wi-Fi. You can put in your Wi-Fi username and password. I'm not going to do that because these things, once they're set, don't mess with the Wi-Fi. It end up changing IP addresses and all that sort of stuff. Now, one great thing about this is they have access point mode built in and running all the time. Or you can turn it off if you really want to, but it means that what you do is you set it up, you simply plug it in, use your phone or something easy to connect to its Wi-Fi access point that's built into it. You come in here, you change the settings, and it just works. It's that easy. From here, you then go in and set your Wi-Fi credentials up for your main Wi-Fi and go, yes, the interface is basically the same as the Panda Breath. If you've used the Panda Breath, it's more or less the same software with just the sensor suites software put into it instead of the heat controller. Apparently, the Breath is likely to be coming with an upgraded suite if it has. No, so it just launched. They've got the new 1.1 with the Clipper integration built in and stuff now. So if you haven't already done so, it might be worth investigating, updating your firmware, because the Panda Breath now can talk to the Moonraker API. So that's something to know. This can show up in your Clipper API as well. But I need to make sure whether my Voron's still got that set up, because remember we dicked with things and it broke stuff. This could be really funny you should say that, Ballistic Tech. This is released. It's already out in the wild. You can buy them on AliExpress. There's a new firmware coming for it that I've just been told about, which is going to make the home integration stuff much easier. It does work right now. You can connect it to Home Assistant, but the new version is going to have a more flexible and more robust way of integrating it with Home Assistant. I've been pushing them to also do some basic stuff for Homebridge as well, because I prefer Homebridge, but at this point that they're resisting. But yeah, Home Assistant can actually talk directly to it already, Ballistic Tech, so that should be awesome. I've got something like that in my finished basement that also detects radon. Radon sensor in the basement, super nice where I live. If you're living in a radioactive area like major granite or next to a missile silo, then yeah, definitely a radon is a good thing to be able to sense. When we were doing the beta testing for this, Nick, they were talking about a screenless version, and it was kind of considered that people buying this, because this is aimed at the Panda market, are the people who are going to want to be able to see it there and then. They're not going to be the more remote users like we would be with our Clipper machines. This is aimed at the Bamboo and similar kind of units. So as a result, they opted to go with a screen version, which does bump the price up quite significantly, unfortunately. But the screen version is what the target market wants, or certainly is what they believe the target market wants. So yeah. Now, please ignore the fact that this shell is a bit all over the place. The new updated version of the front fascia makes the BIQU print much more nicely. Now I've got the INDX, I'm going to be able to print this shell all pretty and nice, and the rest of it, which is one of the reasons I haven't bothered to do the new shell. Yeah, it's a really nice suite to work with, and I have had a modest amount of reassurance that my room here that I work in isn't full of nasty chemicals, because number one, I have a complete loss air conditioning system. It basically, air comes in from the roof, is air conditioned, and then dumped out the windows. That's how the system on this house works. And so you open the windows, a crack, and it just blows all the air straight out. So that means the total loss air conditioning carries all the nasties with it. And yeah, it means that this workshop is a relatively safe place to work. Greg is special, very special, very short bus special. I'm just checking out. You have to pick my brain about home server stuff later? Dude, we can nerd out on my home integration system, because smart homes is what I do as a side gig. So let's have a look a little bit at the last part of this screen. There we go. And here we go, settings. Now, the settings part of this whole thing was probably the toughest part to test, because there was lots of little intricacies that made this stuff as safe as it can be with the operating machinery. Very nice, Nick, thank you. So, time zones. Time zones, when the unit was developed, were very, very simplified, and it wasn't clear. Some places have multiple time zones, like if there's daylight savings in the very northern or very southern parts of a time zone, that wasn't very well covered, and we had to get some work done on that, as well as some of the places that only had Asian names, whereas Perth and Singapore are English language speaking countries on the same time zone. So there was a little bit of development we had to get done on this. There's some very nice screensavers that this can have, including the fact you can install your own animated GIFs. I've currently got all that disabled because if you enable that, sometimes it slows down the report rate. Raj needs to get one of these. I am not saying, Raj, go out and buy one. Please don't think that. This is not a review. This is not a positive or a negative review. This is me simply showing you around the gear and for you to make your own decision. Does it support the danger zone? Possibly. I have no idea. You can set your screensaver timeouts and sleep triggers. So sleep trigger turns the unit off in terms of the display. And then you press the button on the top to wake it back up. And the screensaver is the timeout for before it just has the screen go back to screensaver mode. Screen brightness, if you turn the brightness all the way up, we found a few strange things happen, which is likely going to be addressed with the new firmware that's coming. And firmware update is crazy easy. You download it from the bin file from the site. You point the software at the file. It sucks it up to the ESP32, installs it, and it just works. It's that simple. Yes, the animated GIFs are way easier to change. In the manual, there's actually details on the format and the size of the GIF. I mean, you can do crazy things with it. Ballistic, you can, I think it supports up to 20 frames. And I think it's 320 by 200 in size. Don't quote me on the screen size, but I think that's what it was. It's been about 3 or 4 months since I've done any active testing on this. There's usually a testing period, a reporting, and then you kind of put things aside. And sometimes they'll come back to us and we'll do another round of testing with new software and that sort of stuff, or new hardware mods. And then a couple of months while they build the stock and then start selling. It's been a couple of months since the final round of testing. So some of the exact fine details I am not 100% on, but we can probably go onto their site now. Here we go. Panda Sense Pro. Know the air you breathe. I love the pretty little panda. It's pretty cool. So 3.5-inch screen. It does have the graphing. Here we go, Moonraker integration. So it is able to be popped up into Big Tree Tech. That's what was going on. I don't currently have it on my Voron because I have the Vivid software on it and there was just so much stuff to display. When I do one of the other printers on the stream, I'll bring it up and I'll show you guys then. Yeah, the Nomi integration for the software Ballistic was a bit all over the place, and I wasn't involved in that testing. That was just before I started testing for them, and it was a bit disparate. It's probably the best way of describing what was going on with it. Over time, the testing team has evolved, and the amount of pushback that testers give has definitely increased, because it felt like people who are doing the testing weren't being negative enough. And we've pushed, not negative in a bad way, there wasn't enough critique. There wasn't enough, this could be done better. There was just a, yes, it works, or no, it doesn't. Whereas the team now that's doing a lot of the testing is it's not working because of this, this, and this. Maybe we could try this. There's a lot more thoroughness to it. So hopefully as products come out, they're going to be a lot more well developed before they make it to you guys. Here we go. MQTT Cloud Sync. So this is the stuff that you'll be interested in. It does actually directly talk to Home Assistant over MQTT. The shell you can print any way you want. I didn't know there was CatSys. That's a new development. It's obviously on their GitHub. The screensaver is obviously the Breathe Easy stuff of the kitty cat. The unit can be powered from power banks. If you wanted to make it portable, you could set up a little 18650 kind of backpack for it. Because the whole backpack, the whole back shell is the backplate screws on here. You could actually make your own back shell with a 18650 and a power supply. You'd want to keep it relatively separated from the sensors, just to make sure that it's not going to cause any impact on the temperature and stuff. But yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't make this completely portable with an 18650 and suitable power supply. Here we go. Oh, 480 by 320 was the screen size. That was the main reason for coming here. Screen 3. I just realized I've scrolled past all this with you guys not seeing. There we go. So there's the MQTT spoof. The shells, screensavers, Type-C power. But like I said, there's no reason you couldn't put an 18650 on it. And the technical specs, well, relatively technical. 3.5-inch screen, 480 by 320 display, 5 volts at 1 amp. That's the major sticking point on it. If you start running the 100% brightness, you start running into that 1 amp limit. One of the reasons I got that Type-C voltage meter thingy that I showed you guys earlier was to see what was going on with this, because if you had it at 100% brightness and then it did a screen refresh, you could actually watch the screen brightness dip as it was doing its signal processing. And yeah, it was a thing where they've now gone in and they've behind the scenes set the maximum screen brightness lower, even though it gives you 100%. It's 100% of what's available rather than what it could do now. And 65C, I mean, I haven't put it in an oven, but I did put it in my original Sunlu and run it at 50 degrees. It handled that quite happily. And what comes in the box? Yes, it does usually come with a duck. So what you get is you get the screen and this board. From memory though, yeah, the screen would actually be flipped the other way up. And the circuit board will actually no, let me describe this. Let me describe this better. This board is the wrong way around. Normally when you get the setup, this board is flipped the other way around. So the silver part is actually facing the other way, away from us. And then the ribbon cable on the end of the screen wraps around the end of the board and into this socket. It comes as a complete unit, the screen and the board. You don't have to insert the ribbon. Inserting the ribbon is a risky process, so taking that risk away from users. And what you do is you then wrap that around the... Should I take this apart and show you guys? I can if you want. Let's take it apart. Rather than try and describe it, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And we've got 20 minutes before the end of my stream, so let's do it. Side cam. Let's hope my physio isn't watching this stream. I doubt she would be. Definitely doesn't seem like her idea of fun. Now the screws do go into bare plastic, but if you print it with 3 or 4 walls, the plastic is more than sufficient. This printed a bit rough here because this was an early design and there was some unsupported spots. So this is how it comes. And the gap on this side is just wide enough for you to be able to push the screen through from the back and then wrap it around. It then sits in the little trough there. I've still got the screen protector on the screen too because that's how I roll. And yeah, so that's how the unit comes. Am I reprinting the case in Ultra Glow? Greg, I've told you before, I'll print whatever you want in Ultra Glow if you pay for the filament and the replacement nozzles. Now, the green LED on the inside of the unit can't be turned off. Some people might find that annoying because it does very obviously bleed out if the room is dark through the grills. You got to have the grills because of the need for airflow through the unit to be able to sense what's going on in the room. And when you're positioning the unit, ideally you want it above whatever is likely to be the source of the contamination, because hot air rises and typically all the stuff we're going to be using is going to be expelling hot air. So ideally you would want this to be at or above the level of your printers, because that's going to largely be the source of anything unpleasant in the atmosphere in your room where you're printing. But there's no reason you couldn't use these around the house. Apart from the cost, they are a bit more expensive than I would want them to be. And that has been fed back. Whether that's pricing's come down as a result. Because these are competing with AliExpress products that are, whether they're the same quality, I can't comment, but they're reporting to be, there we go, 130 Australian dollars. So what's that? It's about 80 USD. You're competing with stuff that's 2/3 the price on AliExpress. So whether that's palatable for you, that's up to you. Like I said, I think this is an amazing review kind of process. This is, I tested this, I'm showing you this. It might be useful to you. If it's not, then it's not. If it is, it is. Then it's up to you to make your mind up. But at least this way, you're not going into it as blind as, oh, I saw this online, I'm going to buy it because it looks awesome. You've got a bit more information now. As you can see, it's starting to warm up in here. It's gone up from 19.4 to 20-ish degrees. So everything is starting to wake up here. What time is it? It's 4:45 in the morning. Hi, guys. So yeah, that's the Panda Sense Pro. I've been leaving it up there on top of my streaming computer because it's close to all the power, basically. Once I've got everything nutted out in terms of my room layout, because I've got some more stuff that's coming to test, and I've got to keep it very much off screen, I've been told. I am absolutely no way I can just print something like another elephant to cover it up. It's too big for that. So I've got to rearrange my workshop. I've got to work out how I'm exactly going to set up the S4s for printing from. Let's go back to there. There we go. So yeah, there's a good chance that what you're seeing behind me will be shifted around a bit to accommodate what's going on and fit stuff. So that off camera behind you guys is where I'm going to have to put all the stuff that's coming. Let's get rid of that. Let's stack that there so I don't lose it. And This is my acupuncture needle that I use to clear out my nozzle when I got the wood filament in it. And I dropped it and couldn't find it. I'm putting it back where it lives now while I've got it in hand. I see the elephant has moved again. Interesting. I have zoom in on the reflections. Yes, zoom in on the reflections. If you can see past what's going on the elephant, good luck to you. Mostly because the elephant's just stuffed there to get it out of the way because I finished testing what I was doing on printers for now. So, yeah. Where are we at? We are at 1:45. It's almost the end of my stream time. We've gone through all the content I wanted to cover. So I think we'll call it there, guys. I have been Phil. I have been the Down Under Maker. It's time for me to hop on out of here. Subscribe, like, all that stuff. And thank you for coming. Bye, guys.